Well, let's go ahead and get started. So today, if you have a ball of some sort, tennis ball, lacrosse ball, softball, dog toy, street hockey ball, whatever,
Dog toy.
whatever you have around, grab that and a foam roller. We'll do a little bit of both. So the way this goes is the smaller the object, right, all the way down to, let's say, a golf ball size. The smaller the object, the more targeted you can be with the rolling, right? So let's go. We'll do our lower body to start. So just go over the same sort of areas that you would do on a standard roll, right? And this is sort of broad strokes, right? So we've got a big surface area, and it's a good way to start and kind of warm things up. Just give your calves a couple passes, back of your legs a couple passes. So again, we can mix in some of those techniques that we talk about a lot, this cross friction where you're moving side to side while you roll up and down. And so it's good to just keep all that variety in there, pulling all those tricks out of your bag to keep those tissues moving well. All right, so let's continue up the back of your legs right up to your butt. So now we're just rolling cheeks on here. And something we talked about the other day is try turning on the roller, right? So we almost always have the roller perpendicular to our body. But if you can turn and put the roller like parallel to you, if you were lying down, you can get into some areas that you wouldn't normally get into with the standard roll. Okay, so just try those different angles, working your way to your other cheek. And again, we can cross that leg over. As soon as you cross your leg over, you're going to get more pressure because the muscle is on stretch. All right, so we worked our way up the back of your legs. Let's move to the front. Okay, so we're going to get the front of your shins. So with two ways we can do this, we can kind of go from like a crawl position or a push-up position and just bring that leg across in front of you. All right, so it's, if you've ever done a cross-body mountain climber where you're taking your opposite knee to your opposite elbow, it's sort of that same thing, except you're rolling the outside of your shin on the roller. Another way you can do this, I know a couple of you have Tiger Tails or the the mini handheld rollers. Okay, it almost is like well, it exactly is a rolling pin. So we can use that as well. It's a little bit easier to get there, but it's harder to put enough pressure on, right? So when you're using your body weight, it's a good way to get a lot of pressure onto the area. All right, so let's get your other side if you haven't yet. Then we're going to continue up the front of your leg to roll on your thighs. I like to do one at a time, one thigh at a time, just because then I can get all the way up to my hip flexor. You roll the whole length of your thigh from your knee all the way up to your hip bone. It also gives you a little bit more, if you're only on one leg, it gives you a little more flexibility to work the inside of your thigh, rolling at the outside part of your thigh. So with the IT band, right, so that piece of connective tissue that goes from your knee up into your hip, they've actually found that that band doesn't change length that much because it's like your Achilles tendon, right? So it's the same, not exactly the same sort of tissue, but it's a fascia tissue rather than being muscular down the side. So rolling that IT band hasn't really been found to change the length of that. The thing that regulates the tightness of that, that's your hip muscles. Okay, so we'll spend a little extra time with the ball in your hip today. And so if you think about that, think about this tissue down here as more of a strap, and then it's the tightness of this that controls the tightness of that strap. So if you can get a little extra length up in your hip here, it lets that strap be a little bit more slack, right? For anybody that has like IT band issues, things like that, you could roll the outside, but really you're going to get the most bang for your buck by rolling your hip. Okay. So we've sort of given a once over to everything below the belt. So now we're going to go to the ball, right? Two ways we can do this next part here. So if you find your hip bones, right, the ones by your pockets, the ones that you would hinge from, right, find those hip bones on both sides. And we're going to make like a kind of an upside down U. So we start the ball in front, and you'll end up kind of working your way up over your hip bone into your kind of your butt right here by your back pocket, and then down the back side, right? So think of that as like an upside down U going right up and over top of that hip bone. Two ways you can do that. The easiest way is just to lie on your side and put that ball, use your hand and just sort of work in there, okay? The problem there is that you typically don't get enough pressure, or you get some pressure, but not as much as you could. So if it's possible, it's probably better to do this on the floor. So you put the ball on the floor and then let your body weight rest on it. Okay, so this is a little bit more work, but you can press it into some areas that maybe you couldn't get to before, or the roller definitely can't get into those areas, right? So you might find some areas that are giving you a pretty good zinger, but we want to make sure that whatever pressure you're putting on, that you can still breathe normally and breathe through that. So rather than holding your breath and all that, because that's keeping everything tense. So if you can breathe in through and breathe through it, you're in a pretty good spot. Okay, so you can also like kind of stop, right? So you don't have to pick your body up and be moving all the time. You can find a spot to stop where you feel like, it'd be like a massage therapist putting their thumb on a spot until it releases, until it relaxes. Okay, when you're ready, let's switch to the other side. You go all the way down on your side. So like to get the back part, like behind your hip bone, you'll almost be lying on your back, right? So I think everybody can pretty much do that one. It gets a little more challenging when you have to get to the front part, like up by your pocket. But then it does take some manipulation on the floor. And again, by digging into these muscles here, we're just looking to put some pressure on the muscles that control your hips and the position of your knees, right? And this is the stuff that can get really bound up, especially if you have low back problems or knee issues. So here, I'm not even really rolling on it. I'll just take the weight off of it, move the ball just a tiny bit, like less than an inch, and then put pressure back on it. Take one breath there, move again, move the ball, put pressure on it. And good. That just works better for me than this, where you're just moving it with your hand, because then you only have the weight you can generate with your hand. Right. So it's something, but you can really get into a lot more spaces if you're using your body weight. All right, let's continue rolling. So we'll grab your roller again, moving it up your back. So this is everybody's go-to when it comes to rolling out. Since we are a little more focused on rolling and recovery today, we're going to roll over and get sides also. Right, so just leave your hips on the floor, roll over to your side. Right, so you're still under your shoulder blade here. Then you can just move your body. So leave your hips on the floor, roll your body side to side, then move the roller a bit up to the next spot, moving side to side. And we can continue that. You won't quite get to your armpit, but you'll be able to tell when it starts pushing your shoulder blade around, that gets kind of uncomfortable. So at that point, you would stop the roll. And then we move it back down, switch to the other side. Make sure we're breathing through this too. And good. Okay. We're going to roll over. We're going to get one more side. And this one, it may be better for you just to go straight to the ball. We are going to use, we'll probably just use the ball in front. But a couple ways we can do this. You can use the ball for everything I'm talking about here and just use the floor to help you out. Or you can use the roller. All right, so we put that roller right in between your, like where your chest muscle plugs into your shoulder. All right, so we want to be more on your chest muscle. Okay, you shouldn't feel like you're pressing your shoulder back, or shouldn't be bothering the bones in your shoulder. Right, there's one bone that sort of points forward. That's actually part of your shoulder blade. And if you're on that, you'll know, because it doesn't feel great. All right, so we're gonna pin your chest muscle down, right? And then we can move your arm around, sort of flossing that muscle through the pressure, taking your muscle through movement under pressure. Okay, we can switch to the other side. And again, everything we're doing with the roller, you can also do with the ball. Another way to vary this is to, like if you're having trouble, if there's too much pressure on the roller, or you're having trouble getting there, you can do the same thing, and we'll actually do it now. You can do the same thing by just taking the roller or the ball in your hand and sort of working it around that shoulder joint. This is actually pretty effective. Right, so if, you can kind of see where my arm is and where my chest is. I'm just on the chest side of that line. So you can use a ball, particularly if with one slides, like that's why street hockey balls are pretty nice here. You just slide it across your clothing. Okay, the other way you can do this is, if you have a door jamb or something, you can put pressure against the door jamb and use that instead of using your hand. Okay, but we're just working around. These are the muscles that sort of pull you forward and round you forward. And we did a decent number of push-ups this week in our at-home workouts. So we want to make sure that we're loosening up this tissue here. You can also do the same thing by using the ball and sort of tracing around your shoulder blade like we did for the hip, right? Same sort of thing. That one I would recommend using a wall for, like trap the ball in between your shoulder blade and the wall, and then you kind of move around. But we're not going to do that as part of our roll today. Okay. So now that we loosened everything up, let's go ahead and get into a stretch here. So we're going to just lie on your back. Find the place where your arms lay pretty comfortably on the floor, right? So if it's here, you can keep your forearms on the floor, go there, working your way all the way up to wherever they don't lie comfortably on the floor. Check in with your lower back, make sure your low back is touching the floor. So with straight arms, should be making somewhere between the letter Y and the letter T. Where we do want to breathe through this. So the position that you're in should be pretty easy to maintain. Spread those fingertips wide, back of your hands on the floor, forearms on the floor, elbows on the floor. Low back touching the floor. And the reason we want your low back on the floor is just to make sure you're not flaring ribs up just to get into that position. Right, so we want to have a neutral spine and also be able to reach the floor. All right, from there, let's go ahead and bend your elbows. So we're going to go into a floor slide. So we're just going to move through this up and down. Keeping going with that movement. Okay, if you're breathing through this, so I would inhale on the way up and exhale on the way down. If you're moving through this, you may even feel like it gets a little bit easier as you go along within this session. Right. Again, you're going to work through the range where you can keep your arms on the floor. And good. Let's roll over, curl up on your side, bring those knees up. The other way you can do this, if your foot roller is still nearby, this is the way I prefer. Bringing that knee up and straightening out your other leg. All right, from here, we're going to rotate. You'll get a chest stretch out of this, but also a big upper back rotation. And as you open up, you're going to almost push your knee forward so that roller stays still, right? If the roller is moving, then you're rotating your hips. Okay, we don't want to rotate your hips with this. We just want to rotate your upper back. So we'll open up. You go at your pace here. If you like going through the reps, go through the reps. If you like staying open to get that stretch, stay open to get the stretch. So remember, you are going to be pushing that knee forward. And good. Let's rotate to the other side. Bringing that knee up even with your waistband. So we should be at least 90 degrees at your hip. Fingertips go together. You're going to open up. As you open up, we're pushing that roller forward. Go 10 more seconds. And good. All right, from here, stay on your back. We're gonna bring your knees or your feet up off the floor. Fingertips are gonna point up at the ceiling. So we'll go for dead bugs here. So we're gonna keep everything frozen, but we wanna reach with opposites. So right hand, left leg reaches out. All right, so your choice here, you can straighten that leg and reach your heel out towards the floor, or keep your knee bent and just down to tap your heel. So it doesn't have to be a big range of motion here. Okay, whatever we do with the range of motion though, make sure that your low back stays in contact with the floor. This is how we make sure that we're moving limbs without moving your spine. So we're just alternating each side here. Remember, only 2 limbs are going to be moving at once. 1 arm, 1 leg. Okay, good. From there, let's cross your ankle over your knee. All right, then the leg that's not crossed, the foot that's still on the floor, you're going to reach through, grab the back of that leg, bring it in toward you. Probably noticed by now that we're always going to do some sort of hip rotation stretch. So we've rolled those muscles up in your hips, but now we want to make sure that we're stretching in some way, shape, or form. So you can pull that leg in toward you. As you're pulling your leg in, you can use your elbow to press the crossed leg away from you, right? So I'm pressing my elbow into my leg, into my thigh here, to put a little more rotation on that leg. All right, let's switch it up. Cross your ankle over. The foot that's still on the floor, you're gonna reach back and grab the back of that leg and pull it in towards you. And good. One more stretch on the floor here, or on our back, I should say. We're gonna just grab your shoelaces. I guess we're not even on our back for this one, but just grab your shoelaces, bring that leg back, right? So I'm gonna use my cheek to drive my knee backwards. So it's right over top of my other knee. Now I'm just holding on, getting a quad stretch. You should feel the stretch down the front of your leg. Farther back you drive your knee, right? So the more you use your glute, your butt cheek, and you push your knee backwards, the more stretch you're gonna get. And good, let's go to the other side. Just roll right over, grabbing those shoelaces. Trying to get that knee back over top of your other knee. And good. All right, let's come on up to a seated position. Legs will be straight out in front of you. All right, so we're gonna sit as tall as you can. So if you need to use hands to help prop you up, we wanna get as tall as you can get from your butt bones all the way up through the top of your head. Right, from there, we're gonna hinge forward from your hips. So we're not rounding over to reach for your toes. We're gonna sit as tall as you can. Try to touch the back of those knees to the floor. pushing your heels as far away from you as you can. And then we hinge forward. So you should get a big stretch down the back of your legs with this. If you're like a former gymnast and can somehow fold in half, then I guess you're flexible enough. If you don't feel a stretch with this, you can hinge forward farther. And if you still don't feel a stretch with this, then you're flexible enough. Also helps to pull your toes back towards your body. So we push heels away, pull your toes back toward you. It's a nice stretch on everything down the back of your legs. And good. All right, let's roll over to a push-up position. So now we're going to go from a hamstring stretch to a calf stretch. All right, so we go into that push-up position. You can either stack your foot up on top of your other heel, or you can leave both heels on the ground, whichever you like. So then we just push your hips up towards the sky and let your heel drop down toward the floor. And you should get a big stretch in your calf, maybe down the back of your leg also. Switch sides. There's also a difference here when if you have a straight leg right now, try bending your leg and seeing how the stretch changes, bending your knee. So there's two muscles there. The first one, your calf will be stretched when your leg is straight. Then as soon as you bend your knees, you'll feel a stretch lower, and it feels like a little closer to your ankle. It's still above it, right? So that's a different muscle. There's actually two layers of muscles there, so you can change the stretch by straightening and bending your leg. All right, let's go ahead and walk your hands into your feet and stand up. And last part here, we're going to go through just some nice slow lunges to kind of put everything back together. All right, so we're just going to do 5 lunges at your pace, but we want to try to do everything nice and slow, feeling slow and controlled as you go. Nice and balanced. Again, we're only doing 5 each side. Using that front leg. So the idea is we get a good stretch, and then we use this to kind of bring everything back together. Once you finish 5 on one side, we'll switch to the other. So again, we want to control that whole range of motion, whatever your full range is for this. Let's just work to the biggest range of motion that you can, whether that means your knee is touching or not, no problem. Using that front leg to do the work. Good, let's also go feet wide. So once you finish that 5th lunge, we'll go feet wide. And we're going to do the same thing with a lateral squat. So feet will stay glued. Moving out. Sinking down as low as you can there. Let's go all 5 to one side. And then all 5 to the other. The idea here is to get a little bit of a warm. Right, so if you feel your body temperature coming up a little bit here, that's a good thing. Heart rate will come up a little bit. Good. Okay. So hopefully we got some good rolling done today, good stretching. got a little bit of blood moving around. Now you're off for the rest of your day. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
Enjoy your Sunday.
I will be on the lookout for madness announcements today. I think Jacinta's putting out the challenges today.
Awesome.
All right.
Exciting stuff. We'll see you guys later.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.